a meeting, we get the citizens' comments. Petition's coming up tonight. It's not gonna be discussed. Petition itself is not gonna be voted on. It's gonna most probably go to a vote of the people. I think from the consensus I've heard that that's where it's headed. We're not taking citizen comments on the petition one way or the other, for or against. There's nothing that can be said that hasn't been said 100 times already. So, hang in there, we'll be through shortly.
But you are gonna have a vote on the moratorium. So we can speak about the moratorium.
Hopefully it's something new. Hopefully it's something new. I think we can recite what everybody in this room is gonna say by now.
So you want that? Is that what you're telling me?
I always love to hear from you, Dr. Beck, but I think we can recite what everybody in this room is gonna say by now.
Pretty much.
Is there a date for the vote yet?
No.
Does city council not have anything to do prior to the referendum with regard to the petition?
No.
It doesn't have.
We'll review all that as item number 1 on the work session.
Okay. Gotcha, thank you.
Yep.
Whenever you want to send me your information.
Is it already?
It's on
Alright.
Facebook. I've already had about 5 teams sign
We're
up.
on the air. We're gonna start the work session.
I'll get you some.
All right. So item number 1 is a review of the next steps for the Save Folly's Future Citizen Petition. We did receive a petition a few months ago. We sent it to Charleston County for signature verification. They went through and reviewed the signatures, and the official count is they reviewed 415 signatures of the 478 signatures submitted. They didn't need to go beyond 415 because the threshold had been met. Out of those 415, 4 were disqualified for a total of 411 certified signatures, which could have been well over the amount needed to trigger this meeting tonight. So, as a citizen's petition, the ordinance as presented by Save Folly's Future is now in council's hands. Council has 2 options basically. They can either pass it as written, as presented, or they can defer to a vote of the registered voters in Folly Beach. In past meetings, council has indicated they're most likely to send that to an election later on tonight. I can't legally say they're going to do it until they do it, but there's a high likelihood that council will not vote to adopt the ordinance tonight, but they'll send it to an election. That election has to be scheduled no sooner than 30 days, so at least 30 days away from now, and no later than a year. We work with Charleston County for our elections. Charleston County is kind of driving the car here in terms of the date of the election. We have impressed upon them multiple times that we'd like it settled sooner rather than later, and done at the earliest possible time that Charleston County can get their staff together and arrange for a special election. The earliest time that's even been mentioned is the middle of February. That's not a guarantee. That's just the earliest date they've put out. We do not know the date of the election. We probably won't know the date of the election for at least another week or 2. But of course, as soon as we know, it'll be out, put out for you guys.
Yeah, everybody.
So, in terms of next steps, the ordinance is on the agenda tonight. I don't anticipate a vote on it. I anticipate it's going to be sent to an election. As soon as we know the date of that election, we will spread the news far and wide, and everyone in this room on Folly Beach in Charleston County should know the day of that election about a day after we do, tops. So in terms of the petition, that's the path forward for the petition.
So the way it's written tonight, if we say no to it, it goes to a vote.
Right. If you
You said we're not voting on it, we are voting, but a no vote means it goes to a island vote.
You don't even have to vote. You can take no action and it goes to a vote.
Right. Yeah, you have options. If it doesn't get a
That's just
second,
like normal, but
yeah,
if we vote no to it, it means it still goes to a vote.
right. Whichever way you fail to adopt it, rather through inaction or an active no vote, it goes to an election. So kind of along with the petition is the moratorium. We're currently under a moratorium for short-term rental licenses. Since October 18th, we haven't issued any new licenses for properties that weren't previously licensed. We do have a handful of appeals working their way through the system, but we've kind of shut down licensing since October 17th. That moratorium is scheduled to expire, I believe, on the 11th, the day after the next city council meeting. That's going to be before the election to settle the petition question. So staff has proposed that we extend the moratorium for 3 more months to cover the gap between today and when that election is coming. And we hope that it will happen in 3 months or less. I don't know that, but we've asked for a 3-month extension to cover no more new licenses until the vote. As of today, this afternoon, we have 1,188 short-term rental licenses. That represents 49% of the 2,425 residential parcels. Charleston County gave us a count of residential parcels. So 49% of residential parcels on Folly Beach are licensed as short-term rentals. That's 1,188 licenses. 167 of those are issued to 4% properties. That's 14% of the total number of licenses. And 86% of the licenses, or 1,021 of them, are issued to 6% properties. So that's where we stand on the license count as of this afternoon. And related but unrelated, I do want to say that we have now hired all of our short-term rental enforcement team that we talked about through ordinance earlier this summer. They're on board, they're settling in. I don't want to call them out tonight. A formal introduction will probably be in January, but they have spent the last 2 weeks creating the first truly comprehensive database that pairs property tax rates with licenses, short-term rental registrations. They've been very hard at work manually reviewing each one of these 1,188 licenses. So hiring those guys has already paid off. If you guys do not extend the moratorium, it will still be valid through January 11th, and then on January 12th, we will begin issuing new licenses up until time for vote.
And the moratorium doesn't necessarily have to run 3 months. If we get the vote before that, it ends after the day of the vote. Well, 5 days after the day.
And we did ask for a 5-day window, so that way if the petition fails and we get a run on licenses, that staff has time to prepare for that. Because we anticipate that if the referendum the cap fails, that we'll see increased licensing activity. And so we asked for 5 business days to get ready for that.
Any questions?
And I know you told me this, but we cannot change the,
Yeah, we're recommending against any amendments.
Ordinance right now.
By state law, if you pass it in a substantially different manner.
right,
It would be illegal, and so we're asking that no amendments be made to avoid the question of what's a substantial change.
No amendments made to what?
The petition language.
Oh, that's okay.
Would say that you said we had several licenses turned down, but they are going through the step of appeals with Judge Barnado, and if they win their appeal, then they get a license.
I was gonna make a motion, I just kind of spell that out.
That's the way it works. If they win the appeal, they get their license.
So we don't need an amendment to make that work, that is the natural
That's
course of
the way
action.
that whole thing's
It's
set
got
up.
the same email I got.
Huh?
It's got the same email I got.
No, I got several calls, but
Okay.
yeah, but that's the way it works, and
Makes
that's why you guys hired Judge Barnado, so you wouldn't be sitting here making those.
Well, yeah, that's what I was wrong when I spoke to you the other day, that's what I was talking about. So if that's the case, then that
Yeah.
takes that amendment out the window.
We'll talk about Marsh Island.
I'm gonna let Jenna take over.
Well, I'm sure you bring any notes, that's good.
Well, I'm mainly here to, it's pretty straightforward. The comprehensive plan of 2015 recommended that the Marsh Islands have a new designation that is less dense than our single-family residential. It has bigger lot lines, bigger setbacks, does not allow short-term rentals. And the Palm Island was already rezoned? No,
Black
sorry,
Island.
Black Island. Black Island had already been rezoned. The ordinance in front of you would take, Long Island and Palm Island and give it the Marsh Island residential designation.
So it doesn't affect Bowens at all.
Does not affect those.
And about how many houses do you think that'll be at that density? Do you know? I mean, have you done the math on that?
It's a 14,500 square foot minimum lot size, which is 3 an acre.
Right.
And there's 5 individual parcels on Long Island right now.
Okay.
Well, Palm Island, just one, right?
Just one. And they are already permitted.
I started to say they already have a permit, so it really doesn't affect them.
So, for Palm Island, the house itself won't be affected, it's already permitted, but it will prevent that house from being used as short-term rental.
And just for general information, why doesn't it affect Bowens Island?
We pulled them, from what I understand, and asked if they would like to be included in this designation, and they did not want to.
They wanted to remain commercial.
They're island commercial.
Yeah, that was their option. Just for general public.
And following up on that, for everyone's information, the islands on the south side of the causeway, the high ground of those islands is not in the city of Folly Beach. So it won't be changing the zoning on the islands on the Kiowa side of the causeway, because those technically aren't in the city of Folly Beach. We have the marsh, but we don't have the actual islands themselves.
Yeah, can you clarify that?
So, in the late '80s, when the marsh behind us was annexed between here and Soul Agree Road, the way the annexation was written was only for the marsh. The high grounds of those islands are in Charleston County,
On the west side of the road.
that side of the road towards
Yeah.
Kiowa.
Going through.
Yes, any questions?
Hurricane?
Yep.
Just real quick, we are, on the main agenda, we have a request for our engineers that have been helping us with the grant applications, for multiple grant applications, BRIC grant, RIA, ARPA, and what we call SCIP, which is the CIP. We've been working with Weston and Sampson for quite a while. They actually helped us get awarded the HGMP grant for the redundant water line. They're working on multiple other grant applications for us, and they, during the process of getting those ready and turning them in, they went over their estimated engineering cost by $18,000, and they're coming to us hat in hand asking for 10. Be reimbursed to help them not quote taking those in the interest of good faith. They are also have started moving forward, helping us put the RFPs together so we can get all the engineering firms hopefully lined up and ready to go as soon as the grant hopefully get awarded. So we'll have projects designed and ready to go with engineers selected. That's part. They're doing that at no extra cost to us. To show good faith.
And we're trying to get that lined up ahead of time so we can be one of the first in line with our hands out when the grants are being ready to be awarded.
Yes, sir. The whole nation's going for all these pots of money right now.
And they've helped us apply for about $10 million in grants for stormwater and drainage. And basically what happened when the state ARPA grants were announced, we got proposals and they gave us a proposal for that one. But once we got into that grant application, we identified 3 or 4 other sources of funding that we could kind of piggyback on. So we kept going back to them and said, hey, you did the ARPA, could you slide in a SCIP grant here? And they did, and it was $18,000 of extra work basically that we ordered from them.
What line item would that 10 grand come from? Lee?
The water capital.
More than likely, if we're doing usually redundant water mains, probably the water capital.
Okay. Thank you.
questions? We're on break.